The purpose of this video is just to give you a little bit of a background of my origins, my family, a little bit lighthearted. I want to humanize both Russia and Ukraine because I've traveled extensively throughout both countries. I was born in Moscow. I have lots of family in Ukraine and Russia on the Ukrainian border specifically, and in Moscow and St. Petersburg as well. Before that, I was watching this guy's Bob Saget's bizarre obsession with goats, and it's true. There's so much footage of him talking about goats in a very disturbing and creepy way, and I never knew that. I shared it in the community post if you're interested. It's really eye-opening to say the least. All right, so let's just start with on my mom's side. So this is a region called Bryanska Oblast, and as you can see, it's tucked in right between the Belarusian and Russian border, and not far from Chernobyl and not far from Kiev, actually, where I have family. I have, I still have lots of family living in Bryanska Oblast in this town called Klinsy. But my great grandfather was from a small village outside of Klinsy um, that was called Krasny Rai, which roughly translates to communist heaven, if you could believe that. And he built a little farmhouse on his own. It was a very traditional Russian, rural home, very lots of wood, and it had beds on top of the fireplace that we slept on. It's still there, and it's still being taken care of by the next door neighbors. And it was a great time. They had a sauna that he built as well. But interesting thing about my great grandfather was that he was a Protestant or Protestant priest, and he was relatively free before the 1917 October Revolution, and then his church had to go underground basically, and he had to practice his religion in secret. Um, but from what I was told, he was a very noble, humble, and beautiful man. And my grandpa, who grew up in his house, lived to be 98 years old. He died in February 2019. I actually think maybe on Valentine's Day or actually somewhere around Valentine's Day. He spent all 5 years of World War II in the war. All the way he was involved with blockade of Stalingrad or Leningrad, sorry, which is St. Petersburg today. I've been there as well. He was involved all the way up until the siege of Berlin, the last days of the war. He was in artillery and he won many medals. Um, Also I spent a lot of time with him growing up. Also a very humble, wise man, didn't like talking about the war at all. And my grandmother is from this region of Ukraine, which is basically the separatist area that we're seeing the news today that started in 2014. During World War II, when she was a teenager, both of her parents were killed by the Nazis, and she had to escape. Basically, oh, she was from here, Kryvyi Rog, which translates to crooked horn in English. Funny, I know. But yeah, guys, I spent a lot of time, in Kiev, Crimea. Crimea is absolutely stunningly beautiful. It is like a Mediterranean paradise, even though it's on the Black Sea. It's very warm. It looks a lot like San Diego, actually. Here, I was near a town that was close to this area, Yalta, which you probably heard of before because that's where Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt met for that meeting, the famous meeting. I've been to this place right here. I spent an entire summer in Crimea in 2003, and in 2000 we went all over Europe, Western, Eastern, and I actually saw Putin with my own eyes right after he got elected. Uh, in Moscow, where a lot of my family lives as well, where my mom grew up, where I was born. But this is Crimea here, as you could see. It's basically like an island paradise. The place is just stunningly beautiful, really mellow, chill people, um, really good food. It's just a great place. When I was there, it was part of Ukraine. It's part of Russia now, you know. But I just loved it there. You see these beautiful. Yeah, we went up to the mountains, and there was a monastery where my mom was friends with a monk up in these mountains. Nostalgia. Yeah, the beautiful Black Sea. Oh yeah, that's right. Basically, and just in general, like Russia and Ukraine are so beautiful. There's so much rich history. There is so much history in terms of the church, the very ancient Orthodox Church, and I'm sure you've seen this architecture before. I've been to all these places here. I have lots of family here as well in Kiev. Um, look at that. Yeah, really cool city, Kiev. A really, really awesome city. There's not much bad I could say about it. It's just great. Um, St. Petersburg, probably one of my favorite cities on the planet. There, have family there too. Moscow, not so much. Moscow really hectic and crazy and chaotic and really angry, mean people. But St. Petersburg, lots of rich history, lots of rich architecture. Um, Peter the Great, he had his big palace that I've been to called Peterhof. There's got to be a picture of it somewhere. Um, there's a truck outside. Sorry about that. If you could hear that. Whatever. It's got to be here somewhere. Oh, there it is. That's one. He had two palaces. So he had like a summer home and a winter home. One is called the Hermitage and one is called the Peterhof. I've been to both. Um, Really interesting place. Just there's so much rich history and architecture, culture, both in Russia and St. Petersburg. Okay. So my wife is from this city here called Mariupol. And this is one of the key hotspots during the 2014 separatist movement where 14,000 people were killed. Some people that were killed, my wife knew, that went to her local church because they the shit out of the city in 2014, 2015. Um, and it looks like they're might be going down that route again. This is one of the key regions right now where Russian forces are gathering. This oblast, Bryansk Oblast, all over here. And now they're sending missiles over to Belarusia. They're sending bomber planes and fighter jets over to exclave of Russia that's outside of Russia called Kaliningrad. Um, right here, the small region, which is incredibly close to Germany. I've been all over here. I've been in Germany, Poland, Belgium, Netherlands, England. Uh, it's kind of sad. Um, my dad's side of the family, they have a weird history. He grew up way the hell over here in Siberia in a city called Chelyabinsk, which, interesting on its own, had its own, I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but it's pretty far to the east. It had its own nuclear meltdown, guys, before Chernobyl. Um, that was actually well hidden by the Soviet government because the radiation didn't. The city was in such an isolated region that it wasn't detected by radiation detectors from other countries. Like, for example, when Chernobyl happened, which, by the way, I have family members that worked cleaning that up, and even one who died. Um, they Chernobyl was not in such an isolated region. It's approximately over here somewhere. Um, and it was picked up by radiation detectors in Sweden and Finland, and that's why the Soviets couldn't hide it, right? But yeah, my dad grew up there. However, his family is from Ukraine, from a city called Berdichev, which is my last name, Berdichevsky, somewhere on, I think it's on the Black Sea coast, somewhere near Odessa. And they actually know their family history going back to the 1700s. They have family all over the world that they keep track of in Argentina and Spain and Brazil and a lot of people in South America for some reason on my dad's side of the family. They live in Uruguay and stuff like that. But I apparently like my great great grandmother from this region is like the first Ukrainian woman to become officially become a dentist or something. She was like some kind of prominent person in the medical field or something. And my uncle, actually, who lives in Mexico City for some reason, is one of the top 10 mathematicians in the world. My other uncle was a geologist for the Soviet government. A lot of interesting stuff in my family, guys. Um, but yeah, I still have a lot of family in all over here. Moscow. I have family in Kiev and Moscow Oblast in this town here. And if this place goes up in flames, they're potentially in danger, and it's not good. And I have very, very rich family members that live in Moscow, millionaires, millionaire cousins who have some kind of business. I don't know. I've seen them in 2000 and 2003. Well, actually, no, I've seen them after they went to America, like in 2009, I think. Anyway, so yeah, and also one more thing. So on my dad's side, my grandpa was also in World War II. He was a fighter bomber actually for the Soviet military. So both grandmas fought for the Soviet military against Germany. And my grandpa on my mom's side, who died at age 98, as I said, published a book in Russia about his story. Um, and it was signed, he got a personal signature from Putin sent to him, and he lived in Tucson, Arizona. And I mean, that's basically where I grew up. I was born in Moscow. We moved to, a long time ago, we moved to New York City, to Brooklyn. Then we moved to Arizona, Tucson, and then not far from Phoenix, and lived then in California, but I also lived for a time in Florida and in Portland, Oregon, where I have a lot of family too. And by the way, I lived in a town in Florida that you probably heard of before because it was in the news recently, called Northport, which is where Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were from. So I just thought that was interesting. That's where I lived in Florida. Anyway, this region is in the hot spot right now, guys. A region I'm super familiar with, and it's sad, Um, beautiful people, beautiful places, rich history, rich culture, rich identity, a lot of literature, a lot of science, a lot of great things have emerged from these regions, right? So that was it. Just want to give you a little bit of background on my family, and that's it. Humanize the places a little bit.